Welcome everyone to Aesthetic Impact Informational Services Remote Viewing Practice Target Session. This evening our target is 121212, and it is Amish men constructing a barn in Westby, Wisconsin, a very large Amish community. Lynn Buchanan is with us, and we'll be having commentary from him. And we can't advertise during these educational things. I'm trying to break myself of that. And Lynn is a former member of U.S. Military Intelligence Unit Stargate and a CRV trainer. So he's actually used controlled remote viewing in operation. So we're very lucky to have him with us to add his input as we go through the sessions that y'all have given us. And for those of you who weren't able to actually contribute, that's great too, because you have learned things and you can comment at will. And if you have something to say, that's fine. And I just want to give a little background on this target. The Amish, and there's several pieces of text feedback here that you guys can scroll through and read on your own. But the Amish actually only have a few blueprints that they preserve on pieces of plywood, and when a barn or home needs to be raised, it's a community event, and everybody thinks it happens in one day, but not necessarily. It can take as much as a week. But I wanted to point out that it's a community event. The families come and everyone contributes something as far as the food. There's lots of food and drink and cooking on site and dishwashing, because some of you got that. And so this is all about giving back. No one gets paid, and it's community service, everybody pitching in and working together. And I want to point out that my original feedback photo was a photo that I found online, but in my researching of this target, I have an email out to the newspaper reporter who wrote the original article where I found this, because this photo was printed in, or was posted in an article in the Westby Times, I think, in 2008. You will find it in several online publications, and another one that I'm going to show you was in 2010. But what I want to point out is, look at this photo. This is your target. So if you go roaming around online researching your targets to see if your perceptions fit, look at this barn. Because as you'll see, there's a bank scooped out behind it, there's a shed in front of it, and there's a silo. It almost looks, when you blow this picture up and enlarge it, it looks like the silo might be fairly new. There are ropes around it in a circle, and I've never seen one of these constructed. Lynn's probably going to chip in and have all kinds of good information. But anyway, I tell you, it is the night. Oh, good. Thermal guard. No, I don't need gutter covers. I'm good. So at least it's not a relative wanting to know what we're doing at Christmas time. So this barn is an example of what they call a frolic. It's a work event that combines socializing with a practical goal. And barn raising fulfills a practical need and serves to tie the Amish community together. Sometimes disaster strikes and barns burn down. Sometimes, so I was a little hesitant because I didn't know the background of this barn, what happened to it. And Russ and Jed both were getting perceptions of blowing things up in volcanoes. So that's what the email is about to the lady who actually wrote the article, and it's been 3 days. I haven't heard back. So there could have been a fire that this person needed a barn. That's one possibility. And then another, if the two other feedback articles that I have posted, it goes back in history as to when this area was settled, they used dynamite to blow up the stumps and stuff. So if some of you were attracted to all that hoopla in time, you might have gotten some kind of explosive kind of activity. So we do have several sessions tonight. We are not going to be able to go over every single page. I think I covered most of the history of how this happens, and that it takes at least about a week. I'm just skimming through this to get in.
The thing about it only takes a day.
Yeah.
When a young couple gets married, they have a frolic like this with the community.
Yeah.
And they build them a house, and that usually takes a day. A big barn like this can take a week. Yeah.
I see. Here is, let me reduce the size on this. The original Westby Times article, you can't see this very well since I've reduced it now, the print. This one was tied into some of the research that I did, and it was printed on August 29th. Well, this barn was raised in August 29th. So this background, like, see, there's no bank behind it, and from where the vantage point is of the photographer, in the feedback image, there was a shed there, a red metal shed. But what I wanted to show you, Russ is especially into researching targets. I tried my best in what time I had, every keyword I thought, but here in 2008, the barn that is in this actual article is, there's a brother of the wife of this article, had a barn built in 2008 and lives right across the road. Then there's another one in the area in 2008 and another one in 2009. But our image of our feedback was in 2008. And so I just wanted to point that out in case any of you wanted to research this target. Make sure you have the right barn, and it was built in 2008. Then here is another article with our barn. And it doesn't have a whole lot in it, but you do have those for feedback. And this one has quite a bit about how the folks get their lumber and steel or pre-made now, not as hand-hewn like they used to do. But if you're a temporal attractor gets you, you might pick that up. And also there is metal being used. You saw the gray or the red galvanized metal. And there was something else that I wanted to point out. This one talks about how the farmer who had this barn built was responsible for getting everything ready. The Amish did go ahead and help with the cement footers and such as that, but he needed to do that before the actual barn raising started. Scroll on down, it talks about the food. Women baked 100 pounds of chicken on a wood fire stove that they borrowed for one day. It's a huge task to cook this much food. Pot after pot of potatoes, 5 gallons of beans, 14 pails of potato salad, 17 pies, 4 cakes, multiple gallons of ice cream, lots of silverware, and cleanup in that. And some of you, you're going to find out, some of you were getting part of that at the target site. So, moving right along. Let's see who we've got here. Michelle's target came up first, and Michelle is a pretty doggone new viewer. She's making quite a bit of progress with can see she has site contact with information coming in from every place. We still are working on things such as taking your coordinates and getting site contact, but she's getting good structure as far as the admin and her IAB sequence. And Michelle or Lynn, if you want to chime in here anytime, I just wanted to, she's getting all kinds of sensories here, for everything from taste to hearing sounds, different sounds, lots of red.
The the ones on the page before this, where it has comfortable, or even before this, I guess,
Go ahead.
where it has comfortable and all that. There's another misconception about the Amish, that they are very stoic, that, you know, they hang their chairs on the walls and all that so that nobody can be comfortable in any way, and that's a total misconception. That may be with some of the other sects, but the Amish, these buildings are extremely functional as well as extremely comfortable. And you know, having lived in Amish country for what, 12 years, I had the chance to see some of these and you know, be in them, and they are extremely comfortable. So, and immense, yeah. And so all of those descriptors she got on the first page, every single one of them was exactly true.
And look at all this stuff she's getting, dimensionals. Oh, she's fighting a nap. Good job. She's very comfortable too. Small something cut out of the red. They were carrying a piece of that metal siding. Feels cold and smooth and sleep. She's smelling flowers. And music playing. Then, let's see. She's still getting different sounds. She's trying to describe. She's starting to wander just a little bit into some sentences. And then here, listen, I hear laughter, plates, utensils clanging. And I didn't have a chance to review many sessions. I was looking for her AI because she's so new at this, and I could point it out to her. So, Lynn, if you see anything, because I'm skimming here as we go, so I'm not really probably picking it up. But there was a couple of places back there she felt a couple of things. I thought she might have had an AI we could show her.
It looked like, just from quick, very quick analysis, it looked like she quit describing and is starting to try to identify what she's seeing. Still on target. That's good. But excuse me, we're having explosions out here all over the place past 3 days. The boys and their toys out at White Sands. But yeah, once you get into sentences, you start trying to make sense, and once you start trying to make sense, you get into sentences. So, I mean, she's still on target, and that's good. But it's a little bit of quicksand there that, you know, you step in that quicksand and you start sinking.
Somebody is leaning over, looking down, holding hands. I tell you what, if I was up on that scaffolding frame, I'd be like hanging on for dear life.
note the sketch on the same page there.
Mm-hmm.
See how she's picking up bits
Mm-hmm.
and pieces, which is very common for remote viewing. And she's actually picking up bits and pieces of the actual site. This is looking good.
I'm just backing up to see if we can see. Feels cold, smooth, sleek. So that's like a tactile kind of cold. Not a feeling like emotional kind of thing. She's mixing dimensionals in here from minute one practically. So I was just looking for something.
By the way, on this first one here that you were just on,
yeah, I'll back up. Hang on.
Just a kudo here, where it says bridge like. That was excellent. She didn't say bridge. It's not a bridge. But when you look at this, it's very bridge-like. It really is.
All right.
So she gets a gold star for that one.
Yep. So I was just kind of, I had every intention, opening large, open front center. What do you think? Might have been right in front of her right then. I'm still scanning.
Yeah, but the AI, the AI still says, you know, has to say, like,
right, but she doesn't know. She doesn't know how to say it yet.
Yeah, and now here in the next part right here is implied. It feels cold. As an analyst, I would think, did she reach out and touch this? If she did, then she's had the AI.
Yeah. Of course, I'm trying to play with the pen here. Here we go. So right here, Michelle, we're just wondering if this was your AI, if this is where you had your spatial, sorry, I'm trying to do the pen here and talk at the same time, spatial relationship to the target, where you are in relationship to the target, like if you were looking at it, and this is your session, so we're obviously armchair quarterbacking, but that's what you're looking for. It's, oh, it's right over there. Oh, it's right in front of me. Then you declare the emotion and set it aside. Now, this is not an emotion. This is more like a tactile. You touched it. But you declare your feeling because you always have an emotional response to the target when you get there. You need to set that emotion aside. But you ask yourself, oh, it's right in front of me. Well, how does that make me feel? Oh, excited. Cool. Oh, I don't like it. I got to go. You know, whatever it makes you feel emotionally. And I'm using this as an example. I'm not saying that this is actually her AI.
Oh, good, because that's what I was going to point out.
Yeah.
That on this, like, the feels cold, when she says opening, large, open, I wouldn't, as even a long, deep analysis, I wouldn't say that this indicates that she's had an AI, but where it says feel, I would wonder if she reached out and touched this thing, and if she did, then, you know, and that's something only she can answer, so we'd have to ask her.
Right. No, I'm using this completely trying to teach her about an AI right now.
That's good, yeah.
And that's why I'm going emotional response, not tactile.
Right.
But anyway, Miss Michelle, you can take your mic off if you want to and chime in. But she's kind of shy. She has a voice. When she wants to talk, she'll talk. Piggyback feel. Okay. Well, nice job, ma'am. you're making lots and lots of good progress.
That's very impressive.
She's a hard worker. All right, well, we will move on. I'm going to make this one go away so I don't keep going back to stuff.
Okay, there where she says noisy horn sound, the Amish do not drive cars, or the ones where I lived. However, we used to go to the property disposal sales at the military bases, and the Amish have all the money in the world. You cannot outbid them. And when it comes to diesel generators and tractors and things that they can use around the farm, yeah. And so, you know, they'll have something that if it backs up, all of a sudden it'll go beep, beep, you know, things like that. So they don't use cars. Out in the community,
I do like to see,
but they have machines all over the place.
And John, why don't you tell everybody just while I'm scrolling through this, what training you've had and what level of training and such as that?
For whatever reason, the barn itself didn't quite interest me that much, but the excavated hillside, I was fascinated with. And described that quite well, because I had a strong sensation that I was at the bottom of a ravine. And I believe that was my AI back here, or was it? I definitely had a strong sense of being outdoors. I remember that.
You know, I'm just us getting together in these little talks, I'm getting such an appreciation. I just wrote that article for 8 Martinis on diversity, which Lynn is like yawning at this point. He's like, oh, well, yeah, I taught you that. But I'm getting such an appreciation of how something is interesting to each of us in a different way. And viewing in teams is so important. And not, I mean, we're not all Lynn or Joe McMonagle. We can't, one of us work a session and depend on us. It's much better to have lots of us, but not too many, then an analyst goes nuts. But I am circulating as I go through here John's structure. It is CRV structure. He's working Gestalt in parentheses here as he works each Gestalt. He's marked them, and then he can either probe this word right here, or he can go back and probe his ideogram. But this, it teaches me as an analyst or project manager that everything that's coming underneath this in phase 2 or stage 2 belongs to that Gestalt. Lynn and I know I'm running off the mouth here.
Would you say that again? Would you repeat what you just said?
And I was getting ready to say, but he's probably still getting information from the site in with.
No, what you just said about everything that follows each one of these?
He is probing that particular gestalt for perceptions.
Yes.
Okay. And he's written them in parentheses, and he can touch the word and come down in like land or water and come down and write a perception, or he can go back to the original gestalt.
Okay, but I think I heard you say that everything that follows this describes like water.
And I was getting ready to take a deep breath and say, but he still has other stuff coming in from the site as well as.
Okay, yeah, because like you cue for water, but you're still winking about the site. So you'll get 2 or 3 things on the water, but then you'll get like, what is this, non-human, and and you'll go bouncing around the site. Now the importance of that is when you come back and you are describing, let's say, the land, you still have to go through the water because, you know, through the water list of descriptors, because you may have winked about the site and picked up something on the land while you were trying to describe the water. And so you go through everything. So under land, you may find descriptors of the people, of the water, of the thing being made, and all that. The cue is just a cue to get you working again.
Actually, there's something really cool here that my line was through. This says near human. So what he's...
Near human. Okay, yeah.
Near human. So that's kind of cool. He's telling us that the water is near at least one human.
Yeah. Okay, but what you have to realize is that, like you cue with water, not every descriptor under that may be about the water.
Right.
You may start winking about the site and start coming up with all kinds of other stuff, you know, descriptors about the land, the people, the activity, the plates, whatever. So I just wanted to point that out. Because when you go back and do your summary, you have to look at everything. You can't just say the water is and go back and look at the water cue and that's it.
Right. So I was going to kind of touch on site contact now and winking about, but you just took care of that. So thank you very much.
Sorry about that.
Nope, that's all right. It's nice to have the pro here. John, you want to tell us about your sketch and its labels? I'm just going to skip ahead for just a minute to look at your labeling.
Well, I definitely knew there was a human at the site. I thought it was female, 5'6", Caucasian. I knew this human was in some type of working environment, a working ambiance, and with something in their hand. I wasn't quite sure what that something was. And there you see number 2 is this wavy slope. I described it as a slope. It was the bottom of the embankment, the excavation, which for some reason really fascinated me.
So there you folks can see how he had labeled his sketch in phase 3, and these were the perceptions that he got with this particular area that he numbered. And then you've got a move command going. You moved yourself 50 feet above the human and you're describing. And then cueing yourself with what is the purpose of the site and it's collecting. And moved into phase 4 for you folks who are in basic. And he has some phase 6 tools going here that he's measuring. And of course I don't have 10 going again. Lynn, do you want to touch on anything about phase 6? We don't get to talk about it real often. Did we lose Lynn? Oop. Tool like collecting something rather rare. Yeah, for them probably not rare.
Can you hear me at all?
I can now. You were muted.
Okay.
You were muted a second ago.
I wanted to say, first of all, that his cueing here is just fantastic. I mean, it's perfect. And turning around and asking questions like, what is its purpose, giving yourself move commands, things like this. This shows a curiosity about the site. And if you can get curious about the site, you're going to get just buku information, you know. About phase 6. Phase 6 is the advanced use of ideograms. And actually what he has right here is phase 4. That's not a timeline, that's a line underneath the P2 AI and so on. But like for phase 6, if you were to draw a line and you were to put on the left side where he has P2 here, you were to put 1600, the year 1600, and on the right side you would put the year 2012 and find the time on that line where this thing is being built. And you can also say, you know, the left side size of a bread box, the right side size of the Eiffel Tower, and find out the size of it. You could also, on the left side, you could put one person working. He's already said working. One person working. On the right end, you could put 1,000 people working, and you could search along that line and find out how many people are there doing the work. And so this is part of the phase 6 thing. You're using ideograms and working them just like you do the phase 1 ideogram. You're working ideograms to find out very highly detailed information. And so I always warn people, if you don't practice your ideograms when you get into the advanced level, you're going to have a hard time because you're not practiced in using ideograms. If you practice your ideograms in phase 1 and phase 3, which is actually an ideogram, when you get into phase 6, you're going to have an easy time at it. So practice those ideograms.
My apologies. I was skimming down through here, and I thought we were starting to work timelines when actually he's working columns.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's phase 4 that he's doing there.
Right, but I thought that he had branched out and was starting to do timelines on the same page. But anyway, oops, my bad.
We'll forgive you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And here is his summary, what he's decided to keep. Lots of gestalts. And he's carrying on what he was just carrying through, his description of the female and aspects of tool-like, 10 feet long, whatever it was.
There on that first part, if you put contains elements of, and then notice down here how he's got one perception per line. If you were to put motion, next line man-made, next line bio or organic, next line natural, and so on, you could also draw lines out to the right and score those to say yes, no, can't feedback, or whatever. And that way you can also score and judge your phase 1 work as well. And for those who aren't familiar with this, See how he's got natural, has aspects of rocky, hard, vertical, sloped, tall, and each on a separate line? Over to the right side, you could draw a little line and put yes for rocky, yes for hard, yes for vertical, yes for sloped, tall, yes. Dark gray color, it was, as I remember, it was reddish colored dirt, not gray. And so on that you would put no, you know. If you couldn't tell, you would put a question mark. And this is one of the things about scoring sessions. If you can't tell what the answer is, don't count it as no. Okay. If you can't tell what the answer is, mark it as question mark, can't feedback. Stepped, okay? Stepped, we can't tell. I mean, somebody's got to get up on that ridge some way, you know. So is it stepped? On that you would put question mark. And by doing that, you have just automatically scored your session. Now, off to the right of that, rocky, that's a texture, hard, that's a texture, vertical, that's a direction, sloped, shows a direction, and so on. You can then move stuff over into a database that says, for textures, I always get correct texture. For hard, I always, you know, for shapes and sizes and all that, I have a certain % of accuracy. And by doing that, it lets you know what you're good at, what you need work at, and so on. So for those who don't know this type of summary writing, this summary writing just, I mean, sets it up so that you can do databasing. You can tell what your strengths and weaknesses are, and I mean, this is perfect data. This is perfect. It's called outline summarizing, and it really makes a difference. I'll get off my soapbox now.
That's all right. I was trying to pull up a score sheet, and of course I can't find one. They make it so hard when I go in from this direction, and I don't know why. I really don't. So, anyway, John, would you like to say anything else? Nice work.
Well, thank you very much. I wish I would have had a bit more contact on the structure of the barn itself, but I was definitely at the site. I was at the site. So very good.
Yes, you were.
That's really what matters. When you work operations, you find that, like if you have 10 people, each person's going to go be interested in some different part of the site, and by letting each person describe what they get interested in, you get an entire picture of the site. And so, no apologies necessary. That's a really good session.
Thank you.
All right. 8:50, not too bad. Hopefully I didn't just make the wrong person's session go away. Thought I made this go away. We'll find out here in about a second. Let me find... I lost Leanne. I will get it. All right, here's Russ's session. And as always, he says in the text over here, his computer's acting up. He can probably text, but he can't talk today. So, as always, Russ has gotten a ton of perceptions, and he is scrolling down here to see if there's anything that's really going to stand out yet. Here's his sketch. Then he breaks them out and starts working each area. He's getting a little fun, curious, observing to all sides. And now look at this right here. Right here with motion, if I think of somebody wielding a hammer, steeply arches up, falls down, and cursive L diagonal, starts in small round area, increases as a looping motion. Swinging motion repeats, silver appearing edging sweeps along to peak in repetition, and it rattles. Latticing, framed, nailed, possible entry point, rectangular metallic, and he's got horns echoing. I don't know about that. But he's got lots going on there with that motion that's repeating and whoop-de-doo, whatever that meant to him. I really wanted to retask him on these bib overalls, but I didn't do it.
Whoop-de-doo is a frolic.
Gotcha. That's really good. Frolic, whoop-de-doo. I mean, it is a big whoop-de-doo. I'm from Indiana, and I know what that means, but I wasn't going to push it. But
yeah.
Anyway.
They call it a frolic for a reason, too.
Yeah. A lot of hard work. But anyway, you know, Lynn, since you're here, I wanted to see what he would get, you know, if he would describe the human that matched up with what these perceptions were. And knowing Russ, he gets so much stuff, I wasn't too sure if he was looking at biological when he drew those. I tried to sort his session out, but I couldn't. But how badly would I have led him into a castle, do you think, if I would have given him that? I mean, if it was a real operational target and the customer thought it was appropriate, that's one thing. But I was wondering if I would set him up for a huge castle if I'd have done that, because it looks to me just like bib overalls.
Yeah, and like a shirt or something like that underneath it. But
yeah,
yeah, there's always the danger of doing that, but there's also the rule that the more exact the tasking, the more exact the answer. You know, the more exact the question, the more exact the answer. And so when you retask, you do exactly that. You go back and you say, okay, nice overall information. Now get more specific on this right here. And so if that drives a castle, you know, and just spins him off into La La Land, then he'll learn a lesson. And with experience, he'll learn to take more exact tasking like that and not spin off into La La Land. So the long-term thing is it's good teaching, and it's always a risk you take, you know, as a project manager, and yet you take it on practice sessions like this, and that way the person is experienced by the time they get to operations. And you know, when let's say that if you task him on that, retask him on that, and it did spin him off into La La Land, when he saw the feedback, he would know exactly what happened, and he would learn. Probably from the quality of the session I'm seeing here, probably he would have given you information about the people working and would have, you know, I seriously doubt that he would have spun off into La La Land.
I was thinking if I were to be showing this to somebody else who didn't know anything about CRV or remote viewing, and I would have retasked that particular perception, they would say, well, look, you gave him something that looks exactly like a piece of clothing. Of course, that's what he's going to tell you back. So I didn't do it, but I thought if you were here tonight, it would be a good thing to ask.
Well, I'll tell you, one time I had a really, really good viewer who had, the target was a hot air balloon, and she had drawn the shape, and she had made it into a tennis racket. she got in the overall shape, but then made it into a tennis racket.
Yeah.
And so I said, give me more information about this. And she said, okay, people are riding it. It's a bicycle. And so, you know.
I'm like, ugh, nails on chalkboard.
And so somebody may say that you're leading them, but, you know, you can lead a horse to a target, but you can't make him view. And,
look at all these perceptions that I'm trying to get us back on here. But, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. And,
yeah, and besides that, somebody who knows nothing about it is going to either ask questions or poke fingers, and the question is not what does somebody think about it or what does somebody accuse you of or anything like that. The question is, can you get the target? If so, hey, I've got a bunch of missing kids we need you to work on. And hell with what anybody thinks.
Yeah. The way Russ does this, after you see how I retasked him, I was going to hopefully, I don't know how he gets great targets. And he gets them. His reporting is the way he reports, and he has a high accuracy rate. But I'm trying to think about how to tell him, if someone else was looking at his session, how to tell what part of the target that he was looking at. So instead of reporting all his textures here, because he's got like lattice and glass, and so it's more like he's scoring stuff and breaking it out and organizing, but he's got velvety food, ceramic look. They use ceramic dishes at that. To glass, there's even a blurb in there. They use real stuff. They think it's important to eat on real utensils, you know, not paper plates and whatever.
This is a perfect example of winking about the site. And if
this is his reporting, though. He's just clustered this to report to us today.
Okay, yeah, but you were saying if somebody else is looking at that, do you mean a CRV trained analyst?
Yeah, or anybody, if any remote viewer, this is Russ's just trying to list them for us today. This is not necessarily how he got them in session.
Okay.
He's got all his textures and then all his colors, and he's just clustered them, you know, as more of an organizational thing for our discussion tonight.
Okay. Is this the summary?
I'm looking to see if he isn't typing in anything tonight. His computer's really giving him trouble. Yes, this is his summary. He doesn't break it out insofar as sessions. So see, here are his sounds, here are his dimensions.
Okay, and this is exactly why in the summary we tell people go back, list your gestalts, and now then, instead of saying, here are all the sounds of the site, here are all the textures of the site, which means you're winking about the site in your summary. What it does is you say, okay, there is an activity. The activity is this big, is this fact, has this sound, you know, and so on and so on. And that's why the CRV method organizes the summary according to the gestalts, not according to the sensories.
Yeah, when I retasked him here, you'll see a little more what I'm trying to get him to do. He probes in his own, he has his own methodology. So he is getting such a great accuracy rating that I'm trying to get him to sort of start doing it somehow that's more in alignment so that the rest of us can pick up on what he's doing so that we know what part of the site he's looking at. So I don't know if that's going to work for him, but he can think about it.
Okay, but the thing is, you know, if he were doing this alone,
Mhm.
For a customer,
Mhm.
the customer might automatically know what part of the site he's talking about.
Yeah.
Also, if he's doing it with a group of viewers, then the group of viewers are going to, you know, describe things, and someone would know where each sound is coming from and all that.
Yeah.
If he's doing a session alone, then there's where this method falls short.
Yeah.
And, you know,
intellect necessarily, spatial AOL design engineering. Yeah, there's some design and engineering there, all right.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's good accuracy here.
Oh, yeah. So let me show you his retasking. Sorry, now this is a little, I took several emails and combined them. I was trying to look for something that I could retask him on. And so I just took a group of his words, and I was hoping that maybe he was trying to describe an actual, like, one part of the target. Because this came under dimensions, but he's actually listed his dimensions. So he was not viewing one particular part of the target, and that was, I was hoping. So I gave him this and said, you know, tell me more about that which you say is. Then we had a little talk about operational viewing in our email because, oh, geez, can't read that at all now. He came back with, he thought he had done enough work on tall early in his first session, so he didn't get me anything for tall, and there's more underneath here, which I will show you. So anyway, he didn't give me more on tall because he thought he had gotten enough the first go-around. So I explained, well, if I was a real customer or had a customer, you know, and they wanted to know more about tall, you don't get to pick. So he's like all about, so that drove him nuts. And he is like, yeah, I understand that. I see what you're saying, and I'm really tired. But this man was very, very tired, and he wanted to finish this session and do a good job. So he did a little quickie on tall, even though he was very tired. And I want to tell you, because I thought you'd be here tonight, Russ, there is no session worth losing a viewer over. So remote viewing is hard work. It takes a lot of energy. So, I mean, you know, if there was really a kid missing in a swamp and we were trying to find him, you know, that's one thing. But, you know, if there's a little session that you can learn something, if you're hooked on, you know, I admire what you did, but I want to really stress to everybody here, there's no sense in wearing yourself out, okay?
Right, and along that line, one of the absolute first rules of project management is one session, one task. So in tasking him with all of those things,
well,
that was the problem that caused this. If you had said, tell me more about the multi-levels, period, that's it. He would have inadvertently given you information about all this other stuff, but he would have only had one job and one task. And it's the major job of a project manager to make sure you don't overtask your viewers. So,
well, and that was also mixed in with me. If Russ hasn't had any formal training, and so I'm used to thinking that this was all one sentence, you know, and it wasn't. It was each a perception to him, which I had interpreted his reporting mechanism appropriately.
yeah.
But he did a bang-up job. The thing that was tall, he's got weird bios running, hasty ballistic powder, dome shape with spaced holes, futuristic, and booty areas, swirling motions, and lots of colors, all kinds of people stuff, and the shape of the pitchy, floaty hull, suggesting decreased gravity by support, and Then he's got here, right here, we haven't gotten to Jed yet. And John was getting stuff as far as that excavation goes. Oh, and look at this football dome, low and huge. But anyway,
yeah, that's a choice one. That's great.
yeah. I mean, it's an AOL and it's like a football dome. But anyway, that's why I sent that email to the lady who wrote the article. It's like, everybody's getting stuff being blown up here. So I was very curious to wonder why. But
yeah, on that one, you notice there's a present structure already there.
Mm-hmm.
And they're building this barn over it.
Oh,
And so, whether something was blown up there, it was probably in order to make that land flat, right where that
that big bank was behind it.
That big bank was, yeah. And so that probably happened many years before that. And or even a year or so before that, so they could build that base structure. And so here is where a timeline could come in. You know, where is the activity of the foodie swirly motions on that timeline? Now then, where is the event of the explosion on that timeline? And all of a sudden, you get not only a description of the site, but the history of it too. And here's where timelines can come in handy.
I had a hard time trying to decide if that silo was new or old. So there's a little white shed that looks weathered, but that silo, I could not figure that one out. But here's his original retasking. Let me see. We have like, oh geez, his usual stellar self, 19 pages. So anyway, this is the amount of his normal retasking with all the stuff that he gets. There's a lot of pages just because it's double spaced. And Janina is over there going, woohoo! Great session, Russ.
Really is a great session.
Yeah. Oops, somebody's smoking a cigar.
And by the way,
yeah, go ahead.
By saying that CRV does the summary in a different way, I'm not putting down the way he's doing it at all, because the main job is to get the good information to the, you know, at the end of the session. And so I'm not putting that down. I'm just saying that, you know, it's done one way, it's done another way, and there are other ways to do this as well.
And
so there is no judgment call there.
Yeah, because we've long said, you know, as long as you can bring the kid home, and there are lots of groups out there doing good stuff. CRV is not the only way.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, Russ, forgive me for not reading off every one of these words, especially since you're big people and most of you can read. You prove that by writing your words. So, I'm looking to see, normally he will type stuff in, but he's not even typing tonight, so his computer's really giving him troubles. So, Lynn, anything else you'd like to? Yeah, and yeah, I do know about retasking and not giving lots of perceptions, and that was my thinking that all of his stuff belonged, you know, together in that cluster, and then I didn't realize that that was his organizing, not his viewing. So anyway.
Yeah, that's no problem. It made a little harder task for him, and he took it and ran and did a good job. So, you know, can't fault that.
No, that's why I took the moment tonight, what time I had, to try and make an email, get all those emails into one thing so that he could see, you know, what a good job he had done. I don't get a chance to do that enough before these because I have so many other things, plus people sending in everything, and I would like to be able to put everything together and make comments and get it, if they're retasked, everything in one place, but I don't always have that time. So that's why we end up winging it quite a bit. So, and Janine, while I'm in between here, did you send a session in? Don't be ducking either if you did. No, been very, okay, that's fine. I just didn't want to overlook it, okay? Got it. And there's the worksheet. There's Jed, more Jed. Okay, let me get Leanne Withrows. There it is.
By the way, in this picture,
I
don't know if you noticed or not. First of all, there is a car there sitting beside the buggy.
Yeah.
Also, you notice all the guys up there working, and they're all in their blue shirt that tells you what time of the year it is, because they go by the church colors, and they all have the straw hat type thing. Did you notice right in the very front? There's this guy with a baseball cap and a in a lawn chair sitting there watching.
Yeah, can you imagine? I mean, I would just feel really creepy doing that.
Yeah, in a different color shirt too. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course. All right, this will be easier if I switch to my desktop for this part. Just a second. All right. Do that little strobe effect. And now you all should be able to see, let's see if I can downsize a little bit here, Leanne's work. And let me get the chat back up here. And Leanne. There you go. I took your mic off mute. And Leanne, I think, are you an actual student of Pam Coronado?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So let me just skip down to page 4, just for a second.
Before you do, can I say something on page 1?
Yeah, too late. I already skipped. But on page 4, it says here what she's trying to do. First contact with the target is 1. 2 is sensory contact with the target and the aesthetic impact to set up a personal relationship with it. 3, dimensions, which are the most difficult for her, and she's getting all sorts of images. So she went AOL with everything from a wedding to a bullfight to war and basic training to a horse show and men passing paper money around like they were betting. And she did get horsey stuff. And she has questions before we looked at this. I need help with getting a feel for dimensions of the entire event. She wants to know if getting a lot of detail is good. If it's accurate, she thinks probably so. And she's picking up on a lot of her perceptions are symbolic. So, that being said, she did have her own little list of questions there, and since her methodology, I know Pam teaches a mixture of how to do things. So, I'll shush now and let you take it away.
Okay, as far as the symbolic, don't ever be afraid of the symbolic, because what you get is what you get. You write it down, and if it's symbolic or real or whatever, that's the analyst's job. You don't have to worry about it. You're the viewer. what I wanted to point out on some of those other questions that she said, okay, the colors blue and green close together. Now, I am several feet off the ground. There's her AI.
I wondered about that. I was like, floating, yeah.
Yeah, and so
floating, I'm several feet off the ground.
And so the AI is where you actually make sight contact, and I know that Pam does this quite often, and she does it very well. And then she goes around and getting the details. Yes,
touch down and then look around.
Yeah.
Go up in the air and see further.
Yeah. And what Ingo did was Ingo said, set the stage, get all the blue and green and the sizes, and you know, stay open and get the descriptors and the gestalts, and then as soon as you hit the ground, you have a basis for it. And so so the same thing is happening, just in a different order. And you're getting it. I mean, you're getting that AI right there. You're hitting the ground running. The thing is that when it's done this way, you may run into something, or you may not know where you are or what you're doing, and yet look at the stuff you got. Movement in the area, Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Things just kept coming to my head. I didn't have any time to draw anything, or I just kept seeing stuff. Tools, craftsmanship, working is being done.
Yeah.
You know, it's craftsmanship. You know, I felt that anyway.
Yeah. And so this is fantastic. It actually works either way.
Okay.
And you're doing a great job here.
Okay. Well, thank you.
And this Little House on the Prairie, notice how you put it in parentheses?
Yeah, that. Yeah. It reminded me of, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's AOL, okay? But this is what in CRV is called a phase 7, because it's such an accurate AOL that you can tell it's coming symbolically in, and so I mean, this is great. This is a good session. I was reading this earlier, and
look at all the period stuff here. Wash basin and pitcher of water 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Weird.
I mean, that's what the Amish do, but you almost think you've given yourself a move in time command.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wondered about that too. Anyway.
And then straight up and tall and cylindrical, and I was wondering if that was the silo.
Probably.
Yeah, the wood boards leaning up against a wall or something. That 2x4s, wood boards, you know, and then then I see something cylindrical. I guess I was further away.
Cube shape, you know, the construction.
Yeah, cylindrical. Yeah, it's like.
Well, you know, when you've got the stuff, I'm doing like this with my hands here. But you know, when you've got your board stacked like that, there's cubes of open space between that.
Yeah.
And like I was saying, this shows the difference in methodology, and yet they both work. What Ingo did was, Ingo said, I'm going to be teaching this to dumb soldiers. And so, you know, they're not going to have just a tremendous amount of natural talent, and so we're going to have to build slowly and slowly and slowly up to it, and build a firm foundation so that when they have that AI, then they'll know where they are. Pam has a lot of natural talent, and so she slams right into the site and then starts looking around. And,
call it touchdown.
Yeah, and so both ways work.
I'm trying to learn this way, properly, structure and all that. So, but I want to be there too. You know, I want to find the child
Well,
or
sure,
the
yeah.
adult or whatever we are looking for. You know, it's I want to help.
Yeah.
I want to get better.
Well, I think you know, I think you've seen some of Pam's work, and she's good.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Well, the FBI thinks so, so you know.
Yeah.
All right,
Well,
here we've
the
got...
FBI, what do they know?
Yeah.
Says
Well,
the
we
guy
didn't
from
say that on
NSA.
air. You know, we did not say that, FBI.
No, we were just joking.
Yes, we were. Leather strips. We do have a lot of horses. She's going to have some horse perceptions coming up here, but flash of leather strips, and she's trying to get how long they are, and you can hold it up and keep it from touching the ground. And
it's longer than a belt. Yeah.
Yeah, longer than a belt. And here you go, right down here. We've got some horses, and then the AOL of horses, stables, and horse show. And then we're moving into the feed and corn and mealtime, eating outside, not on the ground. And
yeah, was not a picnic. Yeah.
Not a picnic. And people curved and sitting in
Something
their
like
seating
that.
arrangements. Yeah.
Everything was very basic.
And check it, lots of salt. Yep.
Salt. I bet, I don't know what, the salt of the earth, I don't know what that might mean. You know.
Well, you do have that in quotation marks again. So it's definitely there.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of cooking going on and a lot of people sweating, and then salt and salt of the earth. So you've got, you know, your symbolic conceptuals. And let's see here.
But I don't want to be data fitting too much. I want to be there.
I don't know what data fitting means. Are you talking waffling?
Well, fitting, trying to fit whatever I have to the picture, you know.
Understood.
Trying to say salt, fitting, sorry.
No, that's okay.
In CRV, they call that waffling.
Okay,
all right.
Waffling.
So
there
you
we go.
want to explain to her waffling versus thinking like a thesaurus?
Well, actually,
waffling
yeah.
to one person is understood by another, but it's your session, so.
Right, and waffling, there's a fine line between waffling and thinking of possibilities, and you just have to know where that is. And she gave the definition for waffling in the term that she used, because if you're trying to make your information fit the target, and you know you're having to kind of stretch it this way and that way in order to get it to even fit at all, then you're waffling, you know. But there's another kind where you say, okay, let's look at this. I see flying kites, a few.
Yeah.
All right. We can take that in 3 different ways. One, maybe they're flying kites because it is a frolic, and they do fly kites. You know, the kids get out there and fly kites. They're homemade and all that. They don't have their iPads and everything else to sit over in the corner and ignore the old folks. And so maybe there are kites. If so, and it's not shown in the feedback, then you would have to score that with a question mark. But you've got it in parentheses here. Okay, I see flying kites. You've got all these blue shirts and everything up, moving around all over the top of that barn. Is this an AOL? If so,
in the air, something else up.
You know, is this trying to identify what you're seeing, or is this symbolic of what's going on? And so there are actually 3 ways to do this. And like I say, it's the analyst's job to worry about that. What you do is you get a perception, you write it down, and you keep on going.
But they all look alike. They look anyway. They look like a basic kite, all of anyway.
Yeah, and so, that's the impression you got, that's the impression you wrote down.
I took it and ran with it, holding string, looking at, anyway. I took it and ran with it a little bit there, AOL.
That's quite all right.
Oops.
I did write that in there about the quotation marks again, but, she was looking up and there were all kinds of suspended people with colorful shirts, but anyway, we won't read into it.
Generally, it's not just CRV, but also almost any parapsychological function that when you're working symbolic, the psychic or the viewer or whoever will tend to put quotes around what they get. And so that's a normal red flag to the analyst that says, oh, this is symbolic in nature.
Nice job, ma'am.
Very good.
I was wondering about that paper money. I see paper money, people standing around passing around money. I thought they were making bets. I said bets instead of, they were probably at an auction buying, livestock or something. It's hard to tell. But there were men standing around.
Yeah, like I say,
and there was money changing hands. Money changing hands.
And
men.
The Amish have all the money in the world, I tell you.
I did not know anything like I had no idea they do that. Really, I wondered.
All right, 9:28.
Cool.
Nice job.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks for sending it in.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Well, we're glad to have you. Let me get switched back over to my regular environment here. And I wanted to welcome Marilyn here this evening, too. I don't think we've ever seen her at any of our gatherings before. Marilyn, I don't know if I hope you can hear us. I will type in a message. Marilyn, there is a text area underneath our names. Hopefully you can see that. If you have a microphone, I know you probably didn't do an audio check, but we can work on that. If you want to email me at teresalfrisch@aol.com, if you come back, we can get you so that you can talk if you have a mic, or if you don't and you want to text. There's a little text box just down below. Feel free to ask questions. If you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, if you know anything about remote viewing and you've been doing it, or if you are just here to listen and learn and you have any questions, please feel free to just chime in. And let's see. This is Jed's retasking. Here's Jed's first session, and he is an advanced student and is practicing phase 6 tools and all his move commands. So he has 56 pages here, so that's an awful lot for us to do. We do have, I like to try to keep these about to 2 hours, these little chats that we have. So I'm going to zoom through this a little bit. He has lots of gestalts, lots of phase 2 stuff. And Jed is learning, and I'm not pigeonholing him because he'll be listening to this later. He is, if I were in project management, he's still learning, but he is becoming very strong in things that are mechanical. And Lynn will jump in here, I'm sure. And, oh, there's a note from Marilyn. No, I can't. So one way or the other, she can't evidently talk, but we can work on that later. And let me take a split second and type my email up. If you would like to have some help getting your mic and everything functional in here, or anything at all, just email me there, and or we can stay later tonight and we can do text talking if you have questions about functionality in here. So, getting dry. I didn't get the perceptions in front of this sketch. Looks awful lot like kite flying. Purpose is entertainment, spiritually uplifting, and work. And then he took a break. You'll see, for those of you who are learning structured things, on page 11, Jed took a break, and when he came back, he did his set-asides so he wouldn't be, his session wouldn't be distracted and hijacked, but he wrote break here, and then he's resuming. A lot of sequence there. Try to remember talking about that. So he's going to take, taken a break, and he's going to take his coordinates again, and some people just drop right back into session where they left off, or you can take your coordinates and get site contact. But now he's in phase 4, and he is very good on move commands and going about the site, and I'm looking at stuff as I'm trying to talk at the same time. But he likes to explore and use the tools in his tool belt. Lynn, why don't you jump in there about tools and tool belts? Using the right one when you need it.
Yeah, one of the things of mastering remote viewing is to know what mental tools you have. First of all, having mental tools, which is why we have all of this structure and everything. But then, one of the things that is taught by many teachers is that you are there to follow the structure, and that's not true. The structure is there for you to use however you need it. And so each one of these mental tools, you have to figure out, you have to learn through experience at any point what you need to know. Curiosity is one of your biggest mental tools, but also the ideogram. And you develop ideograms for all these different gestalts and aspects and everything else. You have here like the things column and the concept column. Okay. Move to the assigned target, describe the biological colors, and here's cueing, the move command. And the move command is a tool which works for all forms of psychic functioning, and that is move to the assigned command, to the assigned target. That's something that only your subconscious mind can do. And so, I mean, you don't know what the assigned target is, but your subconscious does. So you give it a command, and then you give yourself a conscious command to describe the biological's colors. And so here, this type of cue right here is called a well-formed question to a psychic. And it's just one of the mental tools that we have. Knowing when to use it and how to use it will help you. You go to Madame Minerva, the gypsy lady or something like that, and you ask her what happened 10 years ago to my aunt. Well, she'll do her magic and she'll give you some information. But if you say to her instead, move to 10 years ago, now describe what's happening to my aunt. present tense, by the way, because her mind is now back 10 years ago. So you say, describe what's happening to my aunt. She will give you better information and more of it simply because you use the cueing tool. And, you know, I could go on and on and on, but I'm hijacking a lot of time here, so I won't. But the mental tools, you need to learn these things if you're going to really be good and professional at working this.
I just wanted to point out, here's a good example of cueing. Jed got the perception noticeable, and then underneath it, he's going to explore noticeable. And so he wrote that word again underneath here in parentheses. So a long way to go through 59 pages here. So, and here he's getting perceptions about creepy, which you're going to see eventually. That's going to come back. Go ahead.
Just a little note on these parentheses and all.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime we give a cue, we mark it as parentheses, and so he gets creepy, and because that's standing alone, we know that he got that as a perception. Then he says creepy in parentheses. That means he's cueing with that in order to tell more information about it, and this is the way we tell the analyst what was a perception and what was a cue. And so here's another one of the tools that's used.
You'll see the word orchestrated in his sessions a lot. That's his way of saying it's organized. That's what happens when you work with somebody consistently. You get to know their isms, their micro movements, and their mannerisms and stuff like that. All right. He took another break on page 18. Took his coordinates again. Got sight contact. Oh. Now here he had an advanced visual. Preview of coming attraction. First he wrote none, then he crossed that out, and underneath it, there is no session above the line that you're on. So if you get something that you think we want to change or whatever, you want to retake coordinates or what have you, put a line through them. But he put a line through none and then wrote streetcars. Then he came down underneath it. He didn't want it to hijack his session because it is an AOL, and he set it aside and declared it. And I'm just trying to make a little progress here. Outdoorsy and people out in the sun, he's getting quite a bit of. I'm kind of trying to get to his P6 tools. Go ahead.
That last page you showed, that was a P6 tool right there.
Yeah.
Weighty, okay. He put 1 or 0 pounds, 1,000 pounds, 2,000, all the way up to 5,000 pounds. And he went along here and felt along here. Now, what you do in a case like this, let's say that he has touched something and it feels rough. You come here and you try to feel that same roughness somewhere on this line, and that's how you tell where it is on the line. Otherwise, you're just going along saying, oh, where do I make a mark? And you're just guessing. But if you take one of those sensories that you get, a noise even, and then you tap along this line very slowly, and you say, oh, that's where I hear the noise, then that helps you find it on a timeline. And all this is an ideogram, and you're just feeling your way along the ideogram. But this is one of the ways you do the timeline, and one of the uses here He wanted to find out how much something weighed.
Really off on the sun now. Now we're having advanced visuals of whales, whale hunt, snorkeling.
And when you get onto a thing like that, you can almost bet that if you go back into a session before that, somewhere up there he has allowed a noun to get in there, boat or something like that, instead of boat-like. Okay, you know, you can just picture Noah's Ark being built on this barn thing, and if you let that noun get in there, you're just going to start building a castle. And so don't be afraid to say, you know, I'm getting a fire truck. Oh, so I'm going to say this is fire truck-like. Now, how is it like a fire truck? And you're back to describing again. But you got to watch those nouns because they will just kill your session.
Okay, here we're starting with the sunbathing. And it's back and we're looking at it some more. Now we've got clubbering, and that made him think about seals. And we're getting whales over here. Oh, Greenpeace, that was here's Greenpeace. Lynn, you want to say anything about, we're talking about whales, etc., etc. Then you've got Greenpeace came through. Now we're snorkeling.
Yeah, when you look at this, it's very much
wounded.
When you look at this, it's very much like a whale. It's ribbed, you know, it's huge and all that. And so this can symbolically be called whale-like. But the minute you use the word whale, you lock your mind in on something, and that's where it leads you astray. And so, so way up there at the beginning, he should have said whale, whale, and then come over and said whale-like, and then cued himself with, oh, how is this like a whale? Well, it's huge. It's, you know, and so on.
Yeah. The only thing was there were streetcars. Now here he's got whales. And there's whale. There's Greenpeace. All right, whale is still with him right there. He's getting advanced visuals of whales before he ever started this session, and so he's fighting it. He's trying to set aside whale hunt. All right. Which is good. He set it aside. And he'll be listening to this recording later, so.
Okay, but you've got a team going out, you know, to this big, humongous thing. You've got to admit that this is, in a way, whale hunt-like. because you've got this team going out working on this big, huge, monstrous
symbolically,
thing. Symbolically, yeah. And so here again, you know, this sounds like a stuck record on me, but you got to watch those nouns. They will kill your session faster than anything else. And so when you get a noun like that, you get mountain. Oh, this is mountain-like, or this is mountainous. Oh, how is it mountainous, or how is it like a mountain? And then you're back to describing again.
Another break. We got a boat in the last session, and here we're having, you know, boat with water hose, and he sets it aside. More P6 tools.
Can you go back to the page right before that?
Yeah.
Okay. Take a look at this. Describe its characteristics. Hard, which is a descriptor. Metal. How about metallic? Okay. Steel. Steel-like. Or, you know, steel colored, or steel textured, or steel whatever, you know, or steel strong, something like that. And once you get these nouns started over in the left columns, you're at the mercy of your conscious mind, and your conscious mind is not remote view.
Now we got Twin Towers. This is a nice sketch, by the way. I was wondering, when I saw this sketch, if maybe it had to do with excavating that bank. We don't know how that happened, but we know that it did somewhere. Oh, now he's getting locomotive. He sets that aside. More P6 tools. Ooh. All kinds of, now we're getting whales and locomotives for advanced visuals. And now we have a summary on page 46. So now we have 10 pages of summary. I wanted everybody here to see the extent. I knew he had taken a lot of breaks. And here, timelines, he's practicing what was going on at the start of the activity, at 55% of the activity, what was happening, and then at 95% of the activity, what was going on. and he's working with some modeling clay. And I thought it was interesting who got the curved seating. I think, was that Russ? I don't think it was Leanne. But somebody had curved seating, and he pretty much is replicating that. Frankly, I was trying, this looks like a submarine to me. I was trying to get something related to that barn out of that, and I never did make it. And then his session summary. Here you can see Lynn, let's see, Janine and Leanne. Well, actually, Russ has heard this before, but you want to talk to us about the indentation here and why this summary in outline form is organized and, you know, people can follow it better?
Yeah, when you do it this way, well, when you make this a run-on sentence or run-on paragraph, what you'll wind up with is, you know, paragraph 1, there's a house such and such. Paragraph 2, oh, by the way, the house is on land or something like that. You get everything just all over the place. This way, this is the SWAN method. Well, this is the CRB method. And you say, the target has the major aspects of man-made biological activity and location. If you were to go over here and draw lines behind each one of these, you would say yes, 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 and yes. Hey, good. Now, you take each one of those, and he didn't take them in order here, but that's fine. He started with the biological. The biological has, or is, squirming around, lonely, heroic, diving, bouncing around, has a sound, and if you go over and make a little line over on the right side under this yes-no question mark column, you can score each one of these on its own merit, okay? Now, the biological has a sound. Does it have a sound? Yes. Now, is the sound creepy? Well, you'd have to score that yes, no, or can't feed back. If it's creepy, then is it creepy by being squeaky, panting, and jeering? And so you can score each one of those on its own merit. The biological, we're back at this, has motion, which is, now, under motion, we're going to find out that the motion is in control and orchestrated. That's true, both of them. Now, the biological has a focus, which is working out. The biological has characteristics, which is sunbathing. The sunbathing is weighty, and the weighty part of it is 200 pounds, sweaty, and 4,900 pounds, which is orchestrated and controlled. Okay? Sunbathing would be wrong. However, does the biological have weight of around 200 pounds and is sweaty? Absolutely. Does the biological weigh 4,900 pounds? No. The man-made probably weighs easily that much. And the man-made is orchestrated and controlled. Okay? And so you can score each one of these. The other thing is the biological. If you were to say 200 pounds per person and count the number of people there, I wonder what total weight you would come up with.
I've sitting here thinking the same thing.
Yep. And
they would be having orchestrated and controlled movement.
That's right. Yeah. And so, like I say, this is the analyst's problem, not the remote viewers. Okay, the remote viewers is to put it down where you see it. There's an activity which is, one, the start of the activity, and probably on the next page he goes into that, and then follows all the way through because he was doing a timeline and tells how the activity progresses. Okay, watching, compromising, 55% of the way into the activity, it's steaming, hot, blowing, and so on. 95% in the activity, whistle blowing, motion, and so on. By the way, it really doesn't matter that much about the weather when they build these barns, but what they do is they also look for the forecast, because when you're putting that roof on, you don't want a windy day. You know, it'll blow people off the roof. And, you know, they have these big sheets that go on there. It'll blow them off the roof. And so there is orchestration in that manner. And blowing, you would have to put question mark, but 55% of the way into the activity, it doesn't matter because they're still building just boards. Now, 95% of the way into the activity, when they're putting the big sheets on, that's where if you had blowing, it wouldn't be right because they wouldn't be up there doing that. And so here's where the analyst has to know what's going on, okay? It's not the problem of the viewer. The viewer gets an impression, writes it down, and moves on. And then he ends by other things at the site. Other things I found at the site were other biologicals and a sense of play, okay? Those could have gone on separate lines too, each one of those, and then you could score each one of those by its own merit. Now on things like textures or alignment, alignment is things that are in a row, in a circle, things like that. Ambiance, biologicals, okay? You collect the number of yeses and nos on those descriptors which describe the biologicals, which describe the colors, and so on and so on. And you move it over to here, and what this does is it will tell you what you're good at, what you need practice in. It will also tell a project manager what you're good at, so they will know what part of the site, you know, what part of a project to task you with. They don't want to task you with something you're not good at. And so by doing this and just keeping this simple database, it lets a project manager use, let's say, 10 viewers to the best of their advantage. And so let's say 10 viewers all have an average of 70% accuracy. By using this database, the project manager can get up to 95, even higher % accuracy simply by using people only on what they're good at. A lot of these psychic clubs or remote viewing groups or something will task everybody with everything. And so you've got them working stuff they're not good at. And the accuracy is not going to be as high. Okay, I'll get off that soapbox too.
All right, let me show you what I chose to retask. Oh, there we go. The location in the beginning, well, he's got this labeled. So anyway, the location has something that's creeping and focused. And I wanted to see if maybe it was the people up on the scaffolding who were very focused so they didn't like fall and die. So anyway, I had a question about that, so that's what I retasked him on, was tell me more about the location, which is creeping and focused. And so he went into another session, got site contact. Michelle, here is an AI, and Leanne. It's in front of me, and then he tends to get bursts of stuff, so he tries to get them all down. I'm getting dry here, I'm sorry. He knows that he's supposed to ask himself, how does this make me feel? But, sorry, but then he just gets a burst of stuff, and he writes that all down. Oh, sorry.
What are these words that he says here?
Helpful. The next one I can't make out. Next one I can't make out. And then he starts getting perceptions. Many people, scarce, crowded.
Okay. Then
I know he's starting to view and get perceptions, and he needs to move back over to the left. Yeah.
When you say, how does this make me feel?
So it's helpful.
If it makes him feel helpful. What he may be doing is John Wayning here.
Okay.
How does it make me feel? Well, they're being helpful, they're being busy, they're being whatever, they're being scared, they're being crowded, okay? John Wayning is a term, a psychological term, by the way. You say to John Wayne, how are you today? And he'll say, well, partner, it's a mighty fine day. That didn't answer the question. And in an AI, when you say, how does that make me feel? You're supposed to answer, how does that make me feel? Then the other things, you move back over into the left side of the page and you start describing what's going on there. Yeah, on each one of these, those should probably go over on this side of the page because they're describing the target. Let's say it makes him feel helpful. That's good.
Yeah, because he is in a service-oriented profession, and he is a farmer. I mean, he has his family has a huge farm. So
he's probably been up on a barn.
Oh yeah. And then I think he's rubber banding with his sketch here. I'm always looking at his sketch going, Jed, what is this? How would I get him? Because I have yet, if he is rubber banding, I have yet to get him to I've tried to say, you know, draw. How would you exactly neutrally word, draw your phase 3 sketch so that it's the appropriate size?
You don't.
Okay.
Rubber banding is going to happen with viewers and psychics, and no matter what. However, on this page here, notice that he is setting himself up for a problem. If he had put erupting, oh, how is it erupting? Oh, it's going up fast. He would be describing the barn. Eruption, he is now setting himself up for volcanoes and geysers and whatever else erupts, okay? Here again, that noun is going to set him up for a problem.
Now watch it, because it's going to dog him. 23 pages, and he cannot shake this volcano. And that's why I put in the letter, because so many people had, now volcanoes, granted, I do associate with fire, and so I wanted to know what happened there that we needed to redo this barn in the first place. And just because it's an AOL and you set it aside, or stray cat, doesn't mean it's not a site. And oftentimes, if it's there, it'll keep coming back. And at the end of this, I wrote back to him, that, you know, he could practice if he wanted a P5 exercise on that, or since he's working with clay, and you and I, see, we're still erupting here. You had said he could work with that if he wanted to tell me more about that which you say reminds you of or is like. But you know, we all only have so much free time. We all have our day jobs.
Yeah, and you never cue with a viewer with a noun either.
Right. But
you know,
remember I asked you, he's the one that wanted to use his clay and maybe explore it, and I had that big discussion with him about, you know, all the pitfalls of a noun, and you don't cue with a stray cat, and you can explore the noun box, you know, if you want to, for a few perceptions here. But anyway, you said that he could tell me more about that which reminds me of. We just talked about that on the phone last week.
Yeah, that which reminds him of something, right?
Right, not me, him.
Right. Yeah.
Just because it is coming back and back and back and back, and he keeps setting it aside.
Yeah, and one of the ways he's not effectively setting it aside. If he did, it wouldn't come back.
Yep.
One of the ways to set it out of your mind when you set it aside is to simply use the term, how is this like? How is this target like what I'm seeing? And let's say that what you're seeing is a volcano, and let's say the target actually is the volcano. When you say to yourself, how is this like a volcano, your descriptors are going to thoroughly describe the volcano. But what you'll find is that your descriptors will describe it so well that you can distinguish which volcano you're talking about. Okay? And this, of course, is what you're after, is detailed descriptions. If you just say a volcano, you've just narrowed it down to about, what, 20,000 volcanoes on the planet, you know?
One thing that there was a significant amount of discussion about the cooking, and they borrowed a stove for this. And so if you're feeding a big stove to cook this much food, that was a consideration on my part. I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but I thought that would possibly be fiery, like a volcano. There's a lot of outside cooking going on.
Yeah,
but I'm not picking up anything. I mean, we've got glowing and smoking and swift, but I'm not picking up any food perceptions or eating or anything. So.
Yeah, but that's true. But you don't want volcano. You want fire-y.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. I'm just, what reminded him of is what I was getting at.
Oh, and that's what you have to have a viewer do, is learn through experience, through practice, to just get rid of those nouns, because they will mess you up. They really will.
All right, and then we've got a photo coming up, and here we've got a biological that he's then describing. It's stalking, it's wild, it's purring, and he told me in an email that he sort of fixed on the biological. So this is his, there's a human type biological and then a creeping animal type biological here. So.
I'm not sure, but I think there is a picture of a dog in that feedback picture. I'm not sure.
We can go look. There's this is our barn, so the other one shouldn't count.
I don't know. Yeah, see the guy in the lawn chair?
Yeah.
Directly to his left. There's a dog.
No, that's another guy in another lawn chair.
No, I don't think so, is it?
Well, hang on, I'll blow it up.
Okay.
See the head and then the lattice work? That's another lawn chair.
Oh, it's not. Okay.
It was a good try.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking was a dog. That's what I remembered as a dog when I first looked at it.
Well, you know, there's probably all kinds of dogs and cats here. I just don't happen to see one.
Yeah, let me... Oh, yeah. Okay, I see the lawn chair and the... Yeah. Okay, never mind.
It was a good try.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, when you start looking, I'm looking at stuff over here going, okay, what's that shape? If I blow it up anymore, it's really going to blur out.
Yeah. When I first saw the picture, I thought that was a dog creeping across there.
I knew where you were going because I was right there with you. But let's face it, this place is, I'm sure, full of barn cats, so. And or dogs or horses. There are horses around too, so. I mean, we even have a guy hiding out here in the bushes. Well, folks, that's it. 13 minutes after 10. We're going to be taking a break over Christmas, and our next target is right after the New Year. I'm trying to keep to, I believe, the 1st and 3rd Wednesdays because Jed has a commitment. He's really a regular, and he wanted to be able to come. So if I had to pick Wednesdays, I'm picking the 1st and 3rd, and there's some little bit of a couple of places there'll be a 3-week break because we've got like 5 Wednesdays in a month or something, but so that's why I'm doing that. So anyway, we are at the end and running over just a little bit. If anybody has any last minute things they'd like to chime in and say or what have you, I think we're pulling the end on 2012. It's hard to believe.
I'd like to chime in and say happy holidays.
Yeah, me too. For everybody who's still with us and will be listening in. I feel so sorry for them. It's like, oh, listen to me. Oh, no. Yeah, Lynn, do you have any ideogram drills on your site? I'm trying to work on that in my spare time, next Saturday at 9.
Yeah, no, I don't. We have the site back up now. We have it
Virus is whooped on?
Oh, man, that virus was bad. Google reports that 24% of all of the sites that are contaminated with the virus are contaminated with that one virus, and that it's almost impossible to get rid of. Basically, what we had to do is wipe out the site and just rebuild the entire site. But anyway, it's up and running now. If anybody goes to our site and finds a page that doesn't work or that doesn't work right, please let us know. It's crviewer.com, by the way. And so we've got targets there that you can practice, target of the week. We've also got a thing called P2It, for those who don't know. And what you do is you click on a target and it comes up and shows you the target right there. And instead of remote viewing it, you get practice describing using descriptive words instead of nouns, and you get practice in just describing what you see. If you learn to do that and describe what you're seeing with your eyes, then when you get into session, you'll be more prone to describe what you're seeing with your mind. And so that's the whole reason for that practice. And some of them are good, really funny pictures too. So anyway, the site's there. We have around 350 targets that are designed for all levels of viewers and for your practice. We don't track anything you do, and you know, if you don't do well, then nobody has to know. If you do well, you have complete bragging rights to show anybody you want. And I have another month to add to it, just as soon as I can get around to it. I'm about a year behind here. So anyway, you want to click on one of those and show them? Yeah, okay. If you were remote viewing this, how would you describe this using no nouns, just descriptors? And this gives you practice in using descriptors without nouns. Okay, and I hope everybody has happy holidays, and, you know, hope we all live through December the 21st.
I have absolutely no doubt that I will be clocking in just the way I always. Well, actually, on the 22nd, I won't be clocking in. I'll be here, going to have Christmas with my family.
Ah, very good. Yeah, the Sunday supplement came out and said experts now tell you why the world will not end, and there is no cause to worry about December the 21st. And the experts telling me that causes me to worry.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Well.
Thank you for doing this all this year, Teresa. It's really been helpful, and I know it's a ton of work for you, and I really appreciate what you're doing here.
Thanks. It's I figure all of you wrote books. We don't have any encyclopedias. This is something that I can do. If we all did something that we were good at, and I'm not saying that I'm not a professional videographer by any stretch of the imagination, but if I can organize a get together and we can all come, if I could have you all in my living room, I would. This is the closest I can come. So anyway, that's what I can do for the community to give back. And you know, we had some tutorials, that half a dozen of them or so, just the outlines for our discussion. I'm going to go ahead and it's moved up the list on my to-do list and get a little Lulu book published. I think that maybe that will help folks, and that will be a direct spin-off of what we did here as a group. So anyway, thanks everybody for coming. I can't believe 2012 is almost over. I'm glad to know all of you, and if, you know, the whole world someday is going to be thankful that we've helped pioneer this. So anyway, I will see all of you in 2013. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and so on. Good night. Yeah.
Good night, John boy.
Good night.